Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Greetings from International Islamic University. Thank you very much to the organizer for the invitations for us to be part of this conference, which is a very meaningful conference and important conference. Allow us to share a bit of our experience as to how we implement the whole institution's transformation approach in mobilizing government, business, publics and schools towards sustainable development. And we do that through the framework that is that we call communiversity, as a combination of community and university. Before I go to the very detail of how we do the process of education for sustainable development through the approach of whole institution transformations, in the universities, how do we work together with the community and with the other stakeholders is through 7 steps. So this is just to give the big picture as to how the visions and missions of the universities working together with the community is being executed. The first one is that we recognize that one of the main challenge for an institutions to implement sustainable development or to achieve sustainable development goals is that the internal silos that is happening among different institutions who are actually working towards the same agenda of sustainable development. So we put up the main missions of betterment of human lives in civilizations as a driving force for all the institutions. So under that, we hope that all the agenda of each officers or each department will fall together under that grand visions of betterment of human life and civilizations. That's the first important outline that need to be there. Secondly, in order to execute the process, the important implementations or operational aspect is creating the platforms, because we know that each one would have their own strategies and operational platforms. But what is important is that how do we put all these platforms together? So in our case, at the International Islamic University or at the RCE Greater Gombak, is that we put up the flagships projects or platforms whereby there are at least at the moment nothing less than 50 projects that put all these efforts together. Meaning that if one office has one agenda on SDG 1, it will then be linked to another office work on SDG 1 as well. So breaking the silos from the very first stage, and then providing the platforms for whereby the silos is broken and the bridge is created in order to bring these groups together. Further down the line, the implementation process is to encourage community engagement, whereby community engagement is now becoming part and parcel of the university's functions. It's not something that becomes secondary and only teaching and research as are given the main priorities, but equally important is that the community work, the community engagement initiatives by the universities is put as integral component of the university's functions. Because we believe that given the context, given the complexities of issues now, it's very important that the students are exposed to experiential learning, because that's where the platforms of or the opportunities of learning the values or instilling the values actually taking place. Because all this while we know that the classroom teachings and education is not sufficient to really address the actual problems and challenges in the communities out there. The fifth component is edu actions programs. What do we mean by this is that the components of that community engagement, the aspiration learning is created based on the ideas that education needs to come together with actions, right? So that's why we call it edu actions. And the driving values and frameworks and reference for this edu action is to create human being, not human capital, which is conventionally referred to now. So in our context, we have this term insan sejahtera, meaning that the human well-being, right, the holistic person, as a main driving force behind all the programs that we have for the students. So it's to create human being, or in our language, to create insan sejahtera, human being who has the holistic personality, who hold good values and carry right attitudes towards sustainable development. The sixth component is the components of humanizing education, meaning that it is integrated, is designed, is crafted in a roadmap for the universities, meaning that all this 1 until 5th is purposely or is deliberately structured into the university's roadmap. Because if it is not formally put there, it will be difficult to cascade the agenda to each of the faculties or each of the kuliah that exists in the university. And the last one is to create the necessarily new learning ecosystems. Because we can have all this agenda and all the missions and vision, if they are not supported by the proper ecosystem, you will not have in terms of creating the values and the collaboration that is needed among all the stakeholders. So specifically, how do we do this operationally? So we've got 2 courses that we make it compulsory for each students to participate and to take the course as part of their graduation's requirement, which is called Usrah in Action 1 and Usrah in Action 2. Yeah? What does it mean by Usrah? Is that it's a family, it's a small circle that functions in action, that operates in actions towards certain directions and objectives. So, and we believe that this is the platform, this is the agenda that can really pull down all the plan that we have in the 7 steps onto the ground. And if we talk about mobilizing, we talk about the need to provide the good ecosystem. We say that ecosystem is referring to the whole institution approach, meaning that each one that involved, each one that is related to the whole that ecosystem needed to be mobilized, need to participate in the process. And this has been there since long time ago, but it's been given a new momentum through the big building declarations. Yeah? So, these are the questions. These are the questions that need to be solved. These are the questions that need to be put on table. How much change are really taking place on the ground on education for sustainable development? We know everyone is wishing to implement education for sustainable development, right? So through this Usrah in Action is where we put in action the education for sustainable development. Secondly, we know that in order for transformation to take place in the whole society, it has to be started with the institutions, or even before that, it starts with the individual, then through the institutions, through the community, and ultimately, hopefully, it will lead to the whole nation's transformations. And thirdly, the important components that we make sure it happen in the structure, in the ecosystem, is that this whole community work, community engagement need to somehow centralize in a way that there is a strong functions of coordination, not to do micromanagement, but it has to be centralized so that all the community engagement activities done by separate entities will then be giving impact collectively. And we see that this effort on community university, meaning that combining the functions of university and community together, is a function that need to be mainstream. So we assign this agenda and mandate to a center that is called Sejahtera Center for Sustainability and Humanity. Because if you don't have a transdisciplinary center, you will still be having the risk of repeating the same silos that we're trying to get rid of. So why do we call it disruptive? Because it's really challenging the conventional way of classes being run, and also challenging the way that usually community engagement work being carried out. So there are 5 components that is we treated as a unique components of innovations that combines the 5 components that put up the agenda of transforming the education that is really needed for sustainable development. 1, it is run in a very transdisciplinary manner and integrated. It's also not exam-based. Yeah, it's based on formative and summative assessments. It's a research-based. It must be attached with research component. It's community engagement and action and solution-oriented. So this 5 component is one that will really disrupt the usual way of how courses are being outlined. And these are the challenge that you would see that we have got to face and in order to make optimized contributions of the courses. And how is this impacting things on the ground, and how the transformation is happening is that it's not just happening in the campus, it's not just happening surrounding the campus, but it's also happening in many parts of the nations, whereby we hope that there is a ripple effect. Because most important is that we have to somehow making sure that there is a continuity of impact from the institutions to the community surrounding it and to the bigger community. A bit more detailed aspect to what happened in the courses of Usrah in Action. One is that the students will be assigned to do a community profiling, because we want the students to identify what is the issues of that particular community, right? And then once they have identified the issue, they come up with a proposal, and then they will be presenting it in a symposiums. And then during that presentation, they will then be given comments to improve and what need to be more concretized. And this is the pictures and an example of what happened during the presentation. So the student will have real opportunities of presenting their case. Following that, in Usrah in Actions 2, this is the actual projects being executed, right? So it starts with concretizations, and then the project executions itself, and then there will be evaluations of the project, and then again, the students have to present the impacts of the projects on the ground. Yeah, and quickly, just want to show to you the kind of assessments that will make a difference. So the lecture is a very dialectical lecture, meaning that it's not a linear one. It's a very engagement. It's supposed to be co-creation and coexisting of learning process, and it's of course experiential learning. Yeah, and these are the assessment methods. So it's a reflective journal, documentation of the community event, and definitely you cannot run from presenting a paper based on the project that is proposed and based on the project that is run. And this is just to give an idea what happened during the kind of issues that have been taken up by the students. So they address issues of special group, marginalized group, refugees, school student, residential, and female communities. Yeah, and if you want to see it from the perspective of the 3 components of sustainable development, you will see that social issues become the most popular issues. And here you can click by yourself later on. If you click on the Google map and type in Usrah in Actions project, you'll get to see the specific project that is being run by the students. Yeah. So that will be as to how we run the projects that is being carried out under the umbrella of communiversity, whereby you would see that it engaged all the 4 main stakeholders. So hopefully that will give some insights as to how the kind of innovation, the kind of like engagement that can be done in order to promote sustainable development in the real setup of the community. Thank you very much.